So it's Danny Flexon here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by my good friend and the president of the World Boxing Council, Mr. Mauricio Sulaiman. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well and very happy to be here, Seconds Out, with Danny Flexon.
I wish everyone would start the interview saying that. But no, I appreciate it. Let's start off, first of all, the WBC rankings were recently announced, the latest version. And the thing that's caused the most kind of media attention is in the heavyweight division. Perhaps no surprise there. And it's seen Tyson Fury, despite preparing at the moment for his rematch with Alexander Usyk in December, has been displaced as the number one contender by Anthony Joshua. Before we talk about Joshua's placement, why the need to drop Fury down when he's fighting the number one, the champion, in December anyway?
I think there's a misconception on rankings, my dear friend. The champion is not number one.
Sure.
The champion is a champion. And Tyson Fury has been the WBC champion for the last 4 years. And the WBC officially sanctioned the title fight against Usyk and the rematch, whoever won. And the WBC rankings came up a few days ago, and the ratings committee placed Tyson Fury in the number 2 position, with the understanding that he will be fighting December 21st, the rematch with Fury. And they placed Joshua, who has been in the number 1 position for several months. I'm not sure how many months, but they just, when he lost the fight, Fury, and that's a very common practice. After you lose your championship, not necessarily you go back to number 1.
What is the thinking there then? Why isn't Fury back to number 1 and Joshua number 2? Why Joshua number 1?
I am not the ratings committee.
Sure.
We have a 26-member committee, and I will be happy to send a question exactly as you pointed out, and I will send you a reply from them on what's the rationale and the procedure they took to address this month's ratings.
Yeah, it would be good to know. Obviously, the placement of Joshua, he's coming off some really good form, some good wins. But there are other contenders. I believe was Ajit Kabayel beating Frank Sanchez. I believe that was a WBC eliminator. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So what spot does the winner of that now go to?
Rankings, it's a very complex procedure. I don't know if you watched the podcast that I did. If not, I will send it to you. There's so many considerations that have to be taken in order to produce the rankings. And this specific division, there was huge movement. The champion losing, the challengers having activity, some others don't have an activity. But I will be happy to have a full heavyweight report from the ratings committee, and I will send it to you for you to use and report if you like to.
That would be great. I really appreciate that. Just on the subject of Fury, there was a video that circulated last week of him partying, perhaps a little too hard. And a lot of criticism, not of him so much, but of the person or persons who filmed him and decided to share that video across social media. What was your reaction to seeing someone who you're friends with, as well as being your former champion, videoed, filmed in that condition?
Well, I'm happy I have not been filmed when I have my own fun. We are all
but maybe you have. Maybe I just haven't told you yet. But
maybe there's some film somewhere. We are human beings. Tyson Fury does not take a lot of drink, and he's a very decent human being that has proven humanity that he can overcome the demons of addictions. And I'm just happy I've been in touch with him. He had a night out. We all deserve to have a night out. those who use social media to have presence and to have followers and have likes and comments, bullying a person should be reprimanded. But Tyson Fury is a public figure, so it's a price that you have to pay for being a famous and public figure, role model. It was unfortunate, but in no way he was just he was not taken out of the bar. He was just being helped by the people, and I don't know who filmed it, but if he had friends with him, but I would not look too much into it. We are all human beings. We can have a little bit fun, have to be responsible, and I'm sure it's a lesson for Tyson Fury and for all public figures.
Now, you formed a close relationship with Tyson during his lengthy reign as WBC heavyweight champion. Have you begun to forge a similar bond with the new champion, Alexander Usyk?
I've been friends with Usyk for a long, long time. We're very good friends, and I am not a hypocrite or an opportunist. I am friend whether you are a champion or you lost your title or you are just 4-rounder or an amateur boxer. I am friend. I do have a very close relationship with many, many fighters around the world. Usyk is a special one. He won the WBC cruiserweight title, and he was so proud of it. Then he defeated my good friend Tony Bello also. We were in a show together in Sports Summit. During the pandemic, we had a few communications. He participated with the WBC talks to entertain the world and to ask everyone to be patient and to prevent domestic violence. So he sent us a video with his kids. I mean, Usyk is a special human being, very dear, and not because he's a WBC champion. And Fury is a very dear and will continue to be my dear friend and compadre, not because he lost the title, I will not talk to him. All to the contrary, now more than ever.
And what's your relationship like with Anthony Joshua, who we discussed earlier? He's never been a WBC champion, WBC international champion, I believe, early in his career.
Yes, yes. I had the pleasure of meeting him for the first time in Saudi, this last event. And we had never met. And we talked very nice, I was very happy and appreciative. And he didn't know many things. He was a WBC international champion for several fights. He didn't know that he was a WBC, the first one to rank him, the first one to have him in the top 10, top 5. And when he fought for the IBF title, he was the WBC number 2 contender. But he had an opportunity and he took it. I joked with him and Roberto Duran. We had a very nice time. I was very impressed on how he's a humble, easygoing, and he's a tremendous athlete. So I was very happy to meet him.
Possibly a WBC champion once again in the future.
Yes, you never know. You never know. He's a great fighter, and he has a lot of respect for the WBC, which made me feel humbled and very, very good when we were talking.
Now, from heavyweight down to light heavyweight, or perhaps super middleweight, depending on how this conversation goes, there's some recent comments from David Benavidez after he beat Gvozdyk at the weekend to win the WBC interim title at 175 pounds. He said that he wants to keep the interim title at 168 as well, that he already holds, so he can remain as the mandatory contender for Canelo. Is that allowed under WBC rules to be interim champion of 2 different weight classes?
We announced previously, and it's still the WBC same position. that we allowed and we sanctioned the fight against Vosdik for the interim, and Benavidez would let us know after the fight what would be his decision. So I cannot make any comments from a unofficial comment. We have to wait to receive Benavidez a specific petition. If he petitions to be both interim titles, we will send it to the board, but we have to wait to see what is exactly what he petitions and what he tells the WBC.
Would you like to see Canelo make a WBC mandatory defense? Because there's been other opponents rumored for his next fight, maybe mandatory contenders for other bodies, and the fans aren't exactly enthusiastic, perhaps, about these fights.
Well, the reality is that there is no bigger fight for Canelo than Benavidez, and the big fights need to take place at the specific time under the specific conditions. As I said, I'm waiting for Benavidez to see his medical clearance, to see what is his decision, and then we will rule upon that. Well, I certainly would like to see a Benavidez-Canelo fight, of course.
And Canelo has said publicly he wants, now I don't know if he's being completely serious, but he says he wants $200 million to even have negotiations for a Benavidez fight. Why is this? Does he just dislike Benavidez, do you think?
I have no idea. You have to ask Canelo.
I will. Well, next time he's on the channel, I'll ask him. But yeah, is it frustrating for you, though, as the WBC president, that your interim champion and your full champion, it's hard to get them together?
No, it is not, because that's a very recent scenario. Media and fans have speculated with the wrong information. Benavidez was eligible as mandatory only this March 2024. Everything before was pure speculation. Of course, Benavidez looked sensational last year with those two wins, especially the last one against I forgot his name.
Well, Canelo, or you talking about, or Benavidez?
Oh, Benavidez, the last knockout win.
Gvozdyk was the last one, and then...
Oh, no, before that.
Oh, before. So it was Andrade, Caleb.
Andrade, yeah, Andrade. He looked tremendous. So people started speculating Benavidez, Canelo. Benavidez takes a fight in 175. So Canelo takes a fight in May. So now we're to the point. He is a mandatory, and we're going to wait to see exactly what he decides.
If he chooses to retain the mandatory position at 168, will the WBC put any time limit on Canelo to make that defense?
Well, if he chooses to remain as a mandatory, he is a mandatory. So I will wait to the notification, the medical clearance, and then go from there. Okay.
Now, a decision that was recently made was the decision to make Terence Crawford WBC welterweight champion in recess, and to upgrade Mario Barrios to full world champion. I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate that. We haven't seen Terence Crawford for almost a year, and he's coming back at 154, of course. Just tell us, for people that don't perhaps know, what does champion in recess mean in practical terms?
In practical terms, this status is a way of allowing a champion to keep his rights, his or her rights, whenever there's a situation where he cannot defend the championship, whether it's a medical, contractual sport, like this time he's fighting in 154 to see how he feels in that category. And he requested the WBC to be recognized as champion in recess. And that's what we have done. So at this time, he had that request. He has the fight in August, and then he will decide, just like Benavidez, if he wishes to return to be champion in welterweight, or he will continue in the super welterweight division.
So can he return to be WBC champion at welterweight, or does he have to challenge Barrios in essence?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, so being a champion in recess, does that mean you can go back to being champion, or you get a shot at the champion?
Yeah, champion recess, when they return, they usually have the fight with the champion that is active.
Okay. And why the decision to upgrade Mario Barrios? Was it just simply once Crawford became champion in recess, it fills that void? Because it's not always the case, is it?
Yeah, Mario Barrios was the interim champion, and once the champion is not active in that division, the WBC voted to put him as a champion, world champion. Same thing that we did with Devin Haney when he was the lightweight interim champion, and Lomachenko was moved up. Then Haney became the world champion. The fans love to say that's an email champion, just to infuriate and to make trouble. But the fact is that the fighters won the title in the ring, and it is just a confirmation of the world championship status.
I'm glad you mentioned Devin Haney, because I did want to ask about him before I let you go, because I know you're very busy. It was announced today that Top Rank had won the purse bids for Devin's WBC mandatory defense at £140 against Sandor Martin. I think you shared the content also on Twitter or X. But Devin Haney doesn't seem particularly happy about this turn of events. He seems unhappy that there were only one bidder in the purse bids, and that's Top Rank. I know Eddie Hearns had his say about that. But the latest thing from Haney is that he's now considering taking a break from boxing until Ryan Garcia is able to come back and they can have a rematch. Are you disappointed by this? Because surely enforcing a mandatory obligation is part of what the WBC stands for. It just doesn't seem to have made your champion very happy.
No, it is not about being happy or not being happy. I have been in communications with Devin Haney after his fight with Garcia. It was Sandor Martin who allowed Haney to have the shot of the title. And then they reached a step-aside agreement for Haney to fight Ryan Garcia instead of fighting Sandor. And they knew the order was coming, and we ordered the fight 45 days ago. And the purse bid took place. It was a surprise that it was only one bid coming from Top Rank. But Devin Haney has been in and out with other promoters. So I don't know what's his contractual situation. And, you know, he's a sensational fighter. He was a tough fight with Garcia. What you just mentioned is, as I said, news. So we will wait to hear officially from Devin Haney regarding any different status.
Thank you. Now, just finally, and it's quite a big question to end on, what have you made generally over the last year or two of the rise of Saudi Arabia in general and Riyadh Season, that group in particular, their rise to power in boxing, if you like?
Well, all I can say is positive. What we have been given as a boxing industry in less than 1 year, because it all started October, has been tremendous boxing events. I don't know if it's 4 or 5, but we have been able to see some of the best names in the sport fighting in very good competitive fights. Interesting. The way they have promoted boxing with doing movie clips, doing different cartoons, and putting billboards all over the world. I'm just very happy to see Saudi Arabia taking on boxing and giving the level that boxing deserves. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but at this time we find boxing to be, especially the boxing writers and the fans who like to do that pound for pound list. I've seen this year people scratching their head every month to try to see if the pound for pound list changes. Crawford beat Spence. It was a tremendous fight. He went to number 1. Then Inoue has great activity, goes to number 1. Usyk beats Fury, goes to number 1. Gervonta Davis this past Saturday had a tremendous win. So the activity all over the world is tremendous at the highest level. And there are so many different fighters who could be competing for that designation of the pound per pound king.
Who's your number 1?
Hard to say, because it is a popularity. You know, it's who likes X or Y style or whatever. I'm just so proud to see so many fighters. Canelo has been the number 1 for many years. Then because he lost to Bivol, people took him down, etc., etc. But if you see that list, there's going to be people questioning some fighters that are not even in the top 10. And it's just a fun, unofficial boxing discussion. So I like it.
Just talking about Canelo losing to Bivol, the fight between Bivol and Beterbiev, another undisputed fight, has now been rearranged, I believe, for October. You must be happy about that.
Yes, that's a sensational match. Undefeated fighters, undefeated champions fighting for the undisputed. You cannot get better than that.
Excellent. Mauricio, always a pleasure to catch up with you. Hope many more big fights are announced in the coming weeks and months. But yeah, really appreciate your time.
Same to you, my friend. Have a great week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.